Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Math Monday. My name is Miss Barnes, and the segment that follows is for kindergartners through second graders. Friends, this morning our lesson looks a little bit different. Okay? We're not going to be focusing on problem solving. Today we're going to start developing a concept called place value. Okay? Place value is the idea that different digits in a number have different values. We read at the very beginning of our homeroom time together, we read a book called Zero the Hero. And Zero taught us the value of numbers in different positions. So today we're going to start to develop that concept. You will need your 10 frame. This is the one that I created a couple weeks ago with you, and you'll need some counters. Now I'm doing all of our work digitally, so you won't see me working with these tools, but you will need your 10 frame and something that you can use to organize your counters or your toys or your pieces of cereal. You will need a double 10 frame. You'll need 2 of those today. So why don't you take a second now and let's get ready to learn. All right, friends, so our objective is I can compose and decompose numbers from 11 to 19. Remember when we started our journey together that we talked about composing and decomposing. And composing just means that we're going to take 2 parts and put them together. Decomposing is the opposite. Decomposing is taking the whole and breaking it into parts. Today we're going to be doing a lot of composing, but we're going to talk about how to break down a number into its pieces, decomposing. So we are going to jump right in to our first problem. Don't forget to have your 10 frame and your counters, whatever you're using as counters, ready. Okay, so the first number that we are going to talk about today, remember I told you that this isn't problem solving. So we're just going to talk about numbers today, what they look like, and how you can compose and decompose them. And the first number that we're going to talk about is the number 12. 12 is a 2-digit number. That means the value of one digit is going to be different than the value of another digit. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to count 12 counters. Whatever you're using as counters, I need you to count 12 of them now and just set them down on your table or your floor, wherever you're working. After you have counted 12, we need to organize them into the 10 frames. So let's take a second to do that now. And I'm just going to take my pile of counters. Now I'm going to move them into the 10 frame, so that I can tell more about the place value in the numbers. So here's 9 and 10. And then we have some leftovers. And we'll just put the leftovers in a separate 10 frame down here at the bottom. Now let's talk a little bit about what we already know. Here at the top, this 10 frame is completely full. Do you remember what we call that? We call that a 10. A 10 is the same as 110, and 110 is the same as 10 ones. That means that what you see in the top 10 frame can be equal to 10 ones, but is also called a 10 in math. Now we're going to look at the bottom 10 frame, and you'll see in the bottom 10 frame that there are how many counters, how many leftovers are there in the number 12? That's right, you see 2 leftovers down there, and we're going to call those ones. Okay? So that means that 12 is composed of 110. Try again, my tool didn't work. 12 is composed of 110 and 2 ones. So let's look back up to the number and see if we can find any similarities between this answer at the bottom of our screen and the number at the top of the screen. Do you notice any similarities between those? Well, I notice that there's a 1 here, and that we also said that the 12 is composed of 1 10. I also notice that 2 here is the same as the 2 1s we calculated with our 10 frames. So remember when we started, I told you that 2-digit numbers are composed of 10s and 1s. The number on the left on your screen, it's the yellow number, the highlighted yellow number. That number represents the amount of 10s in a 2-digit number. The pink number, the number on the digit on the right, represents the number of 1s in the same number. So 12 we know is composed of 1 10 and 2 1s. Great job. I know that was hard work. Let's move on to the next one. The next number we are going to be working with is just a bit larger than 12, and it's the number 14. Okay? So we're going to look at 14 counters. So if you are counting with me, I need you to count 14 counters out and organize them into your 10 frames, just like I'm doing here. I'm going to stop here for a second because I want to see if you remember. Do you remember how many is in a row of the 10 frame? It's not 10. How many is one full row of the 10 frame? That's right, that's 5. Great job. So we're going to keep counting on 5 until we get to a full 10 frame, which is 10. And now we're going to put the leftovers in the bottom 10 frame. Hopefully you're working along with me. And now they're all organized. So let's do some drawing here and let's talk about what we have. Here's another case of a full 10 frame. Okay. What do we call that? We call that a 10. A 10 is the same as 1 10, and 1 10 is the same as 10 1s. Then we have to count what's left over in the second 10 frame. And that leftover down here is how many? Count them, go ahead. There's 4 1s, great job. So that means that 14 is composed of 1 10 and 4 1s. Now we reviewed a couple things here that I want to make sure you heard. We also know that when we have one row of a 10 frame full, that is 5 1s. So then we double that to get a full 10 frame. 5 doubled is 10. And then we counted the leftovers, and we said that was 4 1s. So remember, when we look at a number, a 2-digit number specifically, when we look at a 2-digit number, the first number you see tells how many 10s are in the number, and the second number tells how many 1s are in that number. Now there's one more problem to do together, one more number to sort out, and that number is even bigger than 14. And the last number we are going to work with is 17. So 17, if I write it up here, looks like this. And now here with my counters, I have to count 17 of them. As you're counting, don't forget to organize. The more you organize, the easier it is to count the counters later. It's also much easier to decide how many 10s and 1s are in the number because it's easier to see. So there's a full 10 frame, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and last but not least, 17. Now, you may be able to go ahead and fill out the sentence that's on the bottom, and that's great if you can. But if you can't, we're going to go through the process one more time just to make sure you got the right answer. So here on the top, remember that that is a full 10 frame, and we know that a full 10 frame is equal to 10 ones. But we also know that 10 ones is called a 10. And we also know that a 10 is the same thing as 1 10. So here on the top, we have 1 10. Then we have to count the leftovers in the bottom 10 frame. And the leftovers, keep changing it. The leftovers here in the bottom 10 frame, how many are there? Maybe you don't need to count them. So remember that the top row has 5. And then remember that the bottom 2 counts on. So the top row is 5, the bottom row is 6, and then 7. So how many ones do we have? Well, we have 7 ones. So that means that 17 is composed of 1 10 and 7 ones. Going back to the number, I bet you could have told me that before we did any work, right? So looking at the number on the top, 1 10 is the same as the first number, and 7 ones is the same as the second number. So always remember that. A 2-digit number is composed of 10s and 1s. The tens digit is the first digit you see. It's always the one on the left. The ones digit is always the digit on the right. If you can remember that, you're going to have a much easier time adding. Thanks for joining me in class this week. I had a great time, and I can't wait to see you next week. Bye.